And then as I was saying, when you factor in all the mislabeling and Social Security that's counted as a revenue as opposed to what I would call a forced loan, the deficit is a lot larger than what it appears to be, and our debt, we filled the debt ceiling so many times, and we're really not doing well fiscally. But typically, people get into office and it's hard for them to follow through because they're too political. But fortunately here we have a candidate which I feel is one of his strong points is that he's a newcomer, a virtual newcomer to politics, and he's not the type to, doesn't fit the mold of a typical politician. He's someone who cares. Some people, like me, some people will say, yes, like when I got in, I didn't have much of a political background, and I try to keep it as, try to keep myself grounded as much as possible. And our current candidate is who has been endorsed by 10 out of 14 counties in New Jersey. He is very grounded, and we hope he stays that way. And it's my honor to introduce and welcome to the podium, because there's no microphone here, Mr. Brian Goldberg, USA.
I'm going to actually stand.
Yeah, you can stand.
I'll stand in front or it's screwing up your whenever you're ready. Okay. Hi everyone. So as you heard, I'm Brian Goldberg and I'm running for the United States Senate. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself tonight, and then we'll talk a little bit about why we need to make Cory Booker one and done, and then I'll tell you how we're going to do that. All right? So a little bit about myself. I was born in Brooklyn. I grew up in, there you go.
Oh, Brooklyn.
I grew up in Monmouth County, in Marlboro. I went to Freehold High School. I then went across the entire country. I went to college at UCLA, which is interesting, by the way, is a little weird side note. Cory Booker went to Stanford. So in the fall, we're going to have a Pac-12 battle going on in New Jersey. So, and I got my degree in computer science and engineering. Moved back to New Jersey and wound up in West Orange. Basically, looked at a map. I was working here. I said, what's in the area? And wound up saying, West Orange is a nice place to live. And that's how I wound up living in West Orange. I've been there now for about 16 years. I've served on the Essex County Committee for the past 10 years, and I think it's a funny story how I actually got on the county committee. I got my sample ballot in the mail, and there was no one listed on the county committee line. So I called up the county chair at the time, State Senator O'Toole, and I said, all right, I don't even know what this is, but I want to do it. So how do I get my name on there? How do I do this? He said, oh, no problem. Next week, you go to the polls, you write yourself in. Okay. So next Tuesday, I went to the polls, I write myself in, and I go home, and so Wednesday morning, I call up Senator O'Toole, and I said, all right, I wrote myself in, now what? He said, you won! All right, I won, I'm on the county committee. What does that mean? Go to a meeting. You got to go to a meeting on Monday, then on Tuesday you go to another one, and we'll take it from there. Great. 4 years later, I got my name on the ballot. I went, some of you I know are on your county committee, I did the door-to-door. I got my petition signed, which in Essex County, it's a lot harder to find Republicans to sign your petition than it is here in Ocean County. But I got my signatures, I got on the ballot, and I've been reelected twice to the county committee. I've been, while I have never run before, so certainly that's true, I have been active in a behind-the-scenes capacity. Both, obviously, I mentioned on the county committee, but I've worked on various campaigns. I've been involved with several congressional campaigns where I learned all about fighting the Democrats, because, see, until 2010, I was in Bill Pasquarello's congressional district. So I learned all about fighting the uphill battle against him. Luckily, in 2010, I was redistricted into Rodney Frelinghuysen's district, which was a blessing because now I don't have to worry about fighting that battle. But I've also worked on other campaigns. I was the treasurer for a freeholder race, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But unfortunately, in Essex County, we have a 0 to 9 freeholder board. So again, I know about the uphill battle. So that's a little bit about my background. Oh, I'm sorry. Right now, my day job was, until a few months ago when I transitioned to running full-time, my family's decorative concrete business, right? A lot of people think I might be a lawyer or something else. No, decorative concrete. And the business covers the entire state of New Jersey, the 5 boroughs in New York City, Long Island, and 8 counties in eastern Pennsylvania. So I'm used to running a large operation, covering a large territory. Traveling around the state of New Jersey for this campaign is nothing new. I think the definition of a statewide race is there was one night a month or so ago, at 8:30 in the evening, I was in Hackensack at a Young Republicans event, and the following morning at 8 a.m. I was in Salem County for their convention. So if you know New Jersey, that's about as far apart as you can get, so I know about that. Now, that's a little bit about me. Oh, I'm sorry, I should mention, they'll be very mad at me if I don't. I have 2 young daughters. They're 7 and 10. One turned 10 on Sunday, so I have to get that right. Amber and Haley. Okay, so that's a little bit about me. Now, do I really need to stand up here and tell you why we need to beat Cory Booker? Anybody in the room questioning that? So, look, I am proud to be an American. I believe in American exceptionalism. I want to restore our place of pride in the world. And to do that, we need to take back control of the Senate. That's where, right now, we have control of the House. We've got to wait a couple of years before we can get the presidency back. But right now, this year, we can focus on trying to take control of the Senate. So, people tell me, you're crazy. Cory Booker, he's a celebrity. He's just, he was destined to become a United States Senator. What are you doing? Well, you know how sometimes when an oracle gives a prophecy, there's a little twist? Years ago, the oracle prophesied that Cory Booker would rise to become a United States Senator. The twist, it would only be for 1 year, not even a regular term. So, we're going to make Cory Booker one and done. And how are we going to do that? I have a, 3-part plan. First and foremost, you see me up here, I'm pretty positive, I'm energetic. I consider myself relentlessly positive, okay? I go out on the campaign trail and I talk about how the Republican Party is the party that believes in people. We are the party of optimists. We believe that if we give people opportunities, they will find success. The programs and policies that Republicans promote are the programs and policies that give individuals opportunities for success. Now, what's great about this message is that it does not alienate or turn away the independents and even disaffected Democrats. It draws them in because it's a positive message. For years, we've been branded the party of no. And that doesn't work because no one wants to be associated with a negative party, the people who are running around saying, no, you can't do this and you can't do that. So I talk about the positives, and I came up with a 3-word message. Did anybody ever tell you to keep a little notepad next to your bedside so if you roll over in the middle of the night, scribble something down, right? Almost 7 years ago, I rolled over in the middle of the night and I wrote down 3 words. Empowerment, not entitlement. That's it. That's what it's all about. Empowering individuals to succeed. The job of the government should be to help the governed to succeed, not simply to help the governed. Right? And I know in Lakewood, this is definitely an issue that cuts home, right? Where we need the government sometimes to help people, but it should be to help them to become independent from government services rather than become dependent for life. So, we take this positive message and we bring it out on the road. Now, how do we do that? We have the second part of the plan is outreach. And there are three communities that have been traditionally underrepresented in the Republican Party. First are minorities, right? Now, the governor, if you look at what he did last year, did very well in minority communities because once you start talking with minorities, you find out they tend to have conservative values. But for whatever reason, our party has neglected them. I won't. Look, I'm here in Lakewood. I live 10 minutes from Newark. I'm going to Camden in a couple of weeks. I've been to Trenton. You take this message right into the urban centers, right where people need to know that we care about them and we believe they'll succeed and we want to give them that opportunity for success. So the second group are the youth. I actually have a youth coordinator on my staff. That's what our business cards actually say. We have huge youth outreach. The treasurer for the campaign is the chairman of the Hudson County Young Republicans. I kicked off my campaign at the Morris County Young Republicans. I went to the Ocean County Young Republicans a month or so ago, had a fundraiser at the bowling alley right up Route 70 over here. And I've been to about 3 or 4 other young Republican groups, and was it last week or 2 weeks ago? I spoke at the New Jersey College Republicans State Convention, and this weekend I'll be at the State Young Republican Convention. So we have a huge youth outreach. Why is that important? Well, the youth have been sold a bill of goods by the president and the Democrats, that there are all these dreams and things were going to be great. And they're starting to realize that they can't get jobs. They're being forced to buy health insurance under Obamacare, and it doesn't work. So they're actually very, very right to talk with us. The third group are women. Now, I see a fair number of women here today, and I'm very happy about that. But if you look traditionally in the Republican Party, we somehow have been branded as having a war on women, which I don't understand. What happened if you look at the results from the 2012 election, a lot of people say that single moms, for example, voted in overwhelming droves for the Democrats. Why? They were told that the Democratic Party was going to provide economic safety and security. Well, I can understand why that's important to a single mom, but it's a short-term fix. What we offer is long-term independence, and that's much more critical. So we talk about that when we're out on the campaign trail. So now you've got the outreach, you've got the good message. And the third thing is down ballot campaigns. Now, did I hear that there's an election going on the local level this year?
Yes.
Okay. I'll tell you again a little bit more about when I was the treasurer for that freeholder race. See, we have a 0 to 9 freeholder board, but we came within 250 votes of actually picking up a seat finally. What happened was one of the towns in the district lost 2 council races by about 600 votes. Had we held on to those council seats, we would have picked up a freeholder race. The lesson I learned was, for me to win my race at the top of the ticket, I need to help everybody down the ballot. And I'm doing everything I can so far. There's a fellow just up the road in Brick who's running for town council, John, he's going to kill me for butchering his last name, John Sioko. And he posted on Facebook that he's having a campaign event. I put it on my campaign page. The events that I can go to, events where I can help, I want to be there. If I could be a draw as a U.S. Senate candidate, I want to help the down ballot races because that's how we win. There's going to be congressional races around the state where some places we think we're going to win in a landslide. Look at people like where I live, Ronnie Freelandheisen or Leonard Lance. They think are going to win hands down. But what's important is that we don't just win by 2 or 3 points. We have to win by a landslide. We need to win by 10, 15 points because that extra Republican turnout for them will bring out the votes for me as well. And I know, again, bringing out the votes on the bottom up is how I win. So that's the 3-part plan, and I'm not here tonight to beg for money, but that's the last part I sort of need to add to the plan. We all know Hollywood, Cory Booker, has lots and lots of money, so you can go to my campaign website and you can help us out in that way as well. So we have a form that's going on around. You guys can sign up to be in touch with the campaign. I don't talk a lot about the issues when I'm standing up here because we have the flyer, and I like more to have a dynamic where you guys can ask me questions about where I stand on the issues. My intro speech, thank you very much. I'm very much a fiscal conservative. That's a lot of why I'm running. I'm a businessman. I come at it from that perspective. So I guess right now I'd like to open it up. If you guys have questions about the issues or anything else about what I've talked about, I'm happy to take it from there.
Being that the Senate does have a very big say in foreign policy, more so than any congressman would, and being that right now our foreign policy in many areas is a disaster, but most crucially right now with Russia, what's your view on the Russia-U.S. tensions right now over Ukraine? And if you are elected, how would you? I mean, obviously you're not the president,
Sure.
but what type of proposals would you offer in the Senate?
Okay. Well, so first of all, I'm not the president, or I wouldn't be the president, but as a senator, I'd be voted on confirmations for people like Chuck Hagel and John Kerry, which I never would have confirmed. So that's one step right there. Our foreign policy right now is a disaster because I don't think there is a foreign policy. The president right now seems to jump from one crisis to the next with no plan, with no long-term strategy or goals. I mentioned before, I believe in American exceptionalism. I believe we need to have a strong influence around the world in order to make sure that when we have things like what are going on in Crimea, we can exert influence instead of having Putin just say, I don't care about the Americans because they have absolutely no influence in this area. So how do we get that? Again, I don't call for things like cutting our military. I believe in supporting our allies. And look, energy independence, that's a huge thing that we can do both to help us economically, and if you don't know, one of the ways that Putin was able to do what he's doing over there is he's holding Europe hostage with energy.
Yes.
Okay, one of the things that we can do in our country is we actually are almost at the point where we can be exporting things like natural gas. We can turn Europe into a customer of ours, which then relieves some of that tension. So these are the things that in the Senate, the policies that I would pursue that would help us on the foreign policy agenda.
What's your opinion on the Keystone Pipeline?
Vote for it, let's get it going. Jobs, helps energy independence. I have no idea why it's not done yet.
What do you think you can do to help that?
We can push for getting enough votes to push it through. Right now, that's the problem. It's being held up and not being enacted into law.
What are your ideas on immigration reform?
So, my position on that starts with, first of all, securing the borders. all right? Because securing the borders is not just an immigration policy, it has to do with domestic terrorism as well, right? A lot of people focus on it as just keeping immigrants out, but it's not just that. We have to worry about the guys who come over here on a travel visa and never leave, and the next thing we know, they're doing things that are harming Americans. So, first thing we need to do is lock down the borders, make sure that they're secure, make sure that people who come here, we know who's coming here, and we have some sense of stability on top of that. The second thing is then we focus on reforming the current immigration system so that people who are legally in their countries around the world trying to come here for all the wonderful reasons that America presents opportunity, we could streamline that process so they get here faster and more efficient, and so that we don't give an incentive for people to skirt the law. And then after all the people that are doing it the right way get in, then we can start to focus and worry about how we provide amnesty or a way for people who are here that believed in the American dream. That's why they're here. We find a way to help them stay here legally. But what we don't do is for certain believe that we're going to wave a magic wand and they're all going to self-deport or some nonsense that we've heard in the past. That's not going to happen. So the realistic plan is you have to focus your limited resources first on the border, then on getting the people processed who are trying to come here legally, and then we can work on folks who are already.
I have two questions,
Yeah.
Mr. Senator.
No, future, please.
First is, what are your views on the Arab-Israeli conflict in the Middle East? Where do you stand on it? What are your views on it? And as a second part to that question, how do you feel about all the foreign aid that the U.S. sends to allies and even non-allies, but countries that we're trying to keep at bay overseas? How do you feel about that type of spending?
Okay, so first of all, if you didn't see, I've got my little double flag pin on right here. It's America and Israel. So I am very proud to say I stand with Israel. That there's no question about it. The only democracy in the Middle East, they've been our long-term partner and ally ever since the state was founded, and we need to support that, pretty much in every on top of the fact, a lot of their enemies are our enemies. They're not just trying to attack Israel, they want to attack us. So that's pretty easy to answer on that. As far as this weird game where we provide funding to countries and then go around and try to defend ourselves from what those funds are buying, right, it's crazy, and I agree, and I would not support that, and I would work against any attempts to do that kind of legislation.
You also, my second question is, you mentioned that your motto is empowerment, not entitlement.
Right.
It's certainly a very interesting and deep and very thought-provoking motto. The fact of the matter is, though, that New Jersey ranks last, in federal dollars coming back from Washington to the state. Where I think for every dollar we send to Washington, we get 49 or 50 cents back. I think, some states out west get $2, over $2 for every dollar they send. And if we had more money coming back to our state, perhaps we would have tax relief to our citizens. As our senator, yes, you're one of 100 in the U.S. Senate, but as New Jersey's representative in the U.S. Senate, while you're working to empower the people across the land, what plan do you have to make sure that New Jersey gets more of its fair share, what I believe is our fair share of federal dollars that we send to Washington?
Well, so you're hitting the nail on the head. I will be elected as New Jersey's senator, so I'm going there to represent New Jersey. That said, I also am aware that I heard the number was closer to 66 cents, but that's still depressing and abysmal.
We're last.
We're last, okay. So, that is not sustainable. And so when I want to cut down on government, we just have to keep an eye on what are the things that we can do that help New Jersey. I'll give you an example. I want to fight against Obamacare because we all know it doesn't work, it's unsustainable, it's going to cause havoc throughout forever if it does not get stopped before it's fully implemented, which luckily they keep delaying it because they're waking up and realizing the same thing. One of the ways that I want to do that is focusing on healthcare innovation. Well, a lot of the companies that do that type of work, where it's whether it's creating new medical devices or new processes, are based here in New Jersey. So that's ways that we can actually help a larger problem, but also help New Jersey at the same time. Other ways are to focus on making New Jersey's economy more vibrant. The policies that I promote, the tax cutting, the welfare to work type situations where you don't just get a handout. You need to be empowered to have long-term success. Apply those to New Jersey, and we have a lot more benefit going on in New Jersey. Whether it's direct dollars coming from Washington or not, the end game is to make sure that New Jersey is successful, right?
That's correct. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I know you guys have more questions. Find folks in the back.
Can you talk about what you would do to try to help the fiscal situation in Washington?
Sure. Well, one thing I talk about is I would never have voted to raise the debt ceiling. When you max out your credit card, you don't call the credit card company up and just say, raise my limit, please, I need to spend
I
more.
do. No, no.
I did it also last week. They said
Oh,
no.
well, they said no, there you go, they said no. So, you don't, that's not the way it works in the real world for real citizens. And the government shouldn't be doing the same thing, and I would never have voted for that. So that's one way that we can bring fiscal responsibility. We focus on cutting costs and cutting the spending that is recklessly out of control. I've run a business, and you know what, it's a construction company. We've suffered for the past 4 years. I know what it's like to have to live on an austere budget. It's been really, really tough. And bringing that exact same mentality to Washington, where we can't be throwing the money away on this thing or that, focusing the resources on very, very specific areas where they're most needed. So I'm not gonna stand. I'll tell you that on the convention trail, one of my competitors, who actually sadly didn't file his papers, but he was a very nice guy, he would stand up as part of his convention speech and give this 5-point plan to reduce the debt. And the problem is, A, he's not running for an executive position, so he doesn't really get to create the plan. And as a junior senator, I'm not necessarily going to be able to, look, as a Cory Booker slayer, will I be able to have some little extra credibility in the Senate? For sure. But am I still going to be a junior senator, 1 out of 100? Yes. So there's a lot of dynamics that I can use to leverage, to have more power than might just come as 1 out of 100. But am I going to say, I have a 5-point plan and the 99 rest of you, this is what we're going to do? That's not going to happen. So I'm not going to stand up here and concoct the plan just for to make everybody smile.
What's your opinion on the power of the union still in New Jersey?
So there's different.
Especially like
yeah.
the teachers' union.
Okay, so my sister's a teacher, so I'll preface it with that.
I was a teacher too, but I'm shocked at what the NJEA comes out with in terms of.
Well, it's all for the children, right?
Yes, for the
children. So I'm a big fan of charter schools. I support competition. I think that's how we breed success. So, look, the teachers need to understand if they're professionals, they need to be treated as professionals. They're not cookie-cutter pegs to be interchanged with other people, which is what unions were originally developed for, right? Assembly lines and situations where people were all doing the exact same job. That's not what teachers do. Whether it's the different subject matter, the different grades, or the fact that the different kids in the classroom every year require different teaching skills. So you need to be treated like a professional, you need to act like a professional as well. So I'm not a big fan of the teachers' union. Unions in general, I think in many circumstances have outlived their usefulness. I can tell you that, again, my own personal history. My company is, because we're in this weird niche of decorative concrete, there are no union contractors who do what we do. So we work in Atlantic City, for example. We need to work with unions sometimes, and sometimes we don't work with them. We can go in without as an open shop. What I find is that there are different kinds of people that are in the union. There are guys who are there because they are there to try to get this middle class that the union's working hard to try to get for them. And there are other people who are there because, well, their father was in the union and that's how they got in, and they're not really there to work. They're really there just to be part of that system. If you look at the first people, we can work with them. We can work together. I can tell you that the business agent for the construction union that we work with is a Republican. He was actually at the Atlantic County Convention, and his town supported me. They gave me all 57 of their votes. There are ways to work with unions, but things like the NLRB, I would be opposed to the way that the president has been seating it right now. And I think there actually are 1 or 2 open seats that have not been filled, and which is a good thing because they keep coming out with these crazy regulations. As a business owner, I've seen them. Things like last year, the law was passed and then it got put aside for a while they're trying to iron things out, that every employer over, I think, 20 people needs to hang a sign telling their employees how to unionize. Yeah, no, the employees want to do it. The union can come in and can talk to them. There are different ways to do it, but you don't need to publicize to everybody, this is how you go about unionizing. So I'm not a big fan of unions. I believe in competition breeding success, and that's not what unions are about.
I'm very concerned with Social Security. I've been told that, my age group, when it comes time to retire, we're not gonna have Social Security. What are your thoughts?
So first of all, I want to make something clear, because no one's asked, but I want to point this out before anybody does. When I say empowerment, not entitlement, I'm not talking about Social Security and Medicaid. The people who collect those are not, it's not that we're trading off being empowered for those things that are mislabeled as entitlements. These are people who paid into a system for their entire career and now are extracting some benefit for that. I'm perfectly fine with that type of situation. Social Security needs to not be rated. We heard before how the government is using Social Security funds to help say that the deficit is not growing, which is a fallacy. So we need to, if the funds are there, they're supposed to be in a trust fund, they're not supposed to be rated, we're supposed to live with it like that. I don't call for things like privatizing because I'm not sure that that's necessarily the way it works. The idea behind Social Security is that the people who are paying today are paying the benefit to those who are collecting today.
Right.
And based on that, so it's almost a thank you for what you did to get me to where I am here today. And that's fine, and I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is rating that fund for any other use. So, does that answer the
Do
question?
you think that the money's going to be there?
From what I understand, yes, because the projections are all just that. They're projections, and a lot of times the numbers are skewed in ways that work to people's political benefit, not necessarily to the true state of the situation. So I'm not an alarmist that I'm running around screaming that the Social Security Trust Fund is going to be bankrupt in the next 5 years or something like that.
So keep working.
Yeah.
Keep working, I'll keep collecting.
I'm going to.
We appreciate it.
As soon as I walk out the door, you're going to remember. All right, well, I'll tell you, if you're on the internet, you can find us at goldberg2014.com. If you're on Facebook, please like the campaign page, which is facebook.com/goldberg2014. I'm on Twitter, it's at Brian4NJ. I don't tweet as much as Senator Booker. I do tweet occasionally though, so it's a good way to keep in touch with the campaign. Please follow us on Twitter. We're based any social media. If you guys do that kind of stuff, we're on all of them. Pinterest and Instagram, and I don't know. I told you I have a youth coordinator. I'm young and I don't even know what all these things are. By the way, I'm 40 till Thursday actually.
So you're a young Republican.
That's it. I mean, no one can give me the straight answer. The cutoff is 40, but no one can tell me
You are
if
40.
before 40 or when you turn 40.
The year you turned 40.
Well, on
It's your
Thursday,
last year.
on Thursday I'll be 41, so I got 2 more days to go. So.
We got polling some of the young
What do
Republicans.
you think Christie's chances are for running in 2016?
Well, look, if his chances weren't good, no one would hear anything about the bridge scandal. No one would hear about this stuff. Right? They're attacking him specifically because his chances are good. He actually has, believe it or not, a fair amount of support outside of the state because of what's been going on. There's almost a badge of honor that he's getting attacked. Last week or the week before it came out, there was a report that pretty much exonerated him from having anything to do with the bridge fiasco. So if he comes out of that unscathed, I'll tell you this much. The Democrats are still so scared that there were operatives in Washington that were going to work on my campaign with me that were told by high-level Democrat operatives, leave Cory Booker alone because we want to keep him untarnished for 2016. Why? He's not going to run for president, no. But what better way to take the shine off of our governor if he runs than to have his own senator as the VP candidate on the other side of the ticket, which is very important, by the way. I was talking with someone before we got started that this is it. This is our chance to take care of Cory Booker and make sure that he's no longer an elected official that represents us. Because if we don't win this year, I promise you, he will either be there for life as a senator, or he will very soon be looking to run for some position in the executive branch. So we need to make sure we win this year. So I think it's his chance, but I'm certainly not handicapping that race yet. It's got a long time to play out. Our governor has to get through this bridge thing, and there's a number of people who are yet to throw their hats in the ring that have been tossing around the ideas, and I don't know who's going to make the best candidate just yet. But I'll tell you this, my plan for New Jersey is I win this year. Next year, we take control of the assembly. The following year, we actually vote for a Republican for president from New Jersey. In 2017, we're going to need to elect a governor, because whether Christie runs for president or not, his term will be up. So we'll have a newly elected Republican governor and take control of the Senate in New Jersey. And then in 2018, we get rid of Bob Menendez. Guess what? New Jersey's a red state. Right? It all starts right here with me. It all starts right here with
Is
me.
that before or after you legalize marijuana?
Look, the governor has shown it's not impossible. If you walk around New Jersey like I have, and I don't just go to the core Republican areas. When I go out to campaign, I pretty much go anywhere. I want to talk to everybody in New Jersey. And what I find is that New Jersey is not a blue state. You've got these little pockets of blue, but if anything, it's purple. And most people actually have a conservative bent, but because everybody tells them you just have to vote for the Democrat, that's what they do. But, as the governor liked to point out, although we are down by 700,000 registered Republicans to Democrats, those numbers are 1 million to 1.7 million. There are 2.5 million unaffiliated voters in New Jersey. It's huge. Almost as much as the two parties combined. Can we win statewide elections as Republicans? Sure. If we go about it, as I said, in a positive way. If we don't scare away the independents, if we bring them to us by suggesting that we want to help them. And it's not just a suggestion that I make idly, it's really my core belief, and I'm sure it's yours. That's the conservative philosophy, is that we believe that people will succeed. And so if we just go out there and we spread that message, you guys all talk to your neighbors and explain to them why it's critical this year to vote for a Republican, we'll win. We will. I really believe it. I'm not up here because I want to make a name for myself or I have some other ambition down the line. I want to be the United States Senator from New Jersey, and I want to make sure Cory Booker served as one and done.
What's your opinion on term limits? How can you get rid of these people?
So that's the problem. Term limits, however, are a fix to a symptom. They don't fix the actual problem. All right? So I'm not a fan for term limits because they lead to lame duck legislators. You can't get anything done if you know that there's no chance to ever run again. Part of being a politician, which I'm sadly learning because, look, I've been involved in politics, but I've never been a politician before, is that part of winning is understanding the dynamics of the situation. And if you have no lever any longer because you can't win, you can't be involved anymore in the political process, then you can't legislate. So I'm not a fan of term limits for that reason, but even more so, okay, so pick your least favorite congressman. And we get rid of him because his term limits, he only can serve 4 terms, it's been 8 years, he's got to leave. What do you think? You're going to be the one who they just picked because they like you better? No. They're going to hand-pick the successor and make sure they groom that person and put that person in. It doesn't really solve the problem. The real problem is electing officials that you trust and you believe in. And if we do that, if we actually inform the electorate and we get people involved, then we can deal with the problem in a way that's long-term and sustainable, which that's what I learned in engineering school. You need to do things that are long-term and sustainable.
Another question.
You mentioned it briefly, but since you mentioned it, regarding fundraising, I mean, the reality of politics is that usually the person who can raise more money, not always, but usually has a much bigger advantage. And you also mentioned that Cory Booker has star power. He has big pockets that are going to give towards his campaign. How do you plan on fighting back on that?
Okay. Well, first of all, everybody has to help. That's the first step, right? Whether it's $10, because I had someone gave me a donation of a couple $100, and they said they wish they could give more. And I said, you know what you can do? Go on Facebook or send an email out to all your friends. Well, I don't have friends with big wallets. I said, if 10 people each give me $10, it's another $100 I got. If you could get 20 people to each give $50, that's $1,000. It adds up really quickly when we look at it that way. So everybody just giving even a little bit can go a long way. Are we ever going to amass the amount that Cory Booker amasses? I doubt it. Is our goal to raise in the high 7 figures? For sure. That's where we need to be. Are we there today? No way. Because you know what I've been doing for the past 3 months? I was focused on 2 things. Petitions and conventions. Because that's how it works in New Jersey. If you don't know, last week we had to file our petitions with the Secretary of State, the Lieutenant Governor. And up until that point, you had these conventions, which was mentioned. I won 10 out of the 14 nominations that we had in the state. Might as well rattle them off so you know. In the order I received them were Essex, Passaic, Ocean, Cumberland, Mercer, Atlantic, Somerset, Hunterdon, Hudson, and Burlington. Did I forget any? That's it, right? Okay. I was focused on that because that leads to primary success. All right. I was not focused on fundraising, and I'll be honest. Next week, my fundraising report will be coming out, and it's going to be embarrassing because I really didn't even raise a finger to do any fundraising until now. Now we've actually started. Some money has been coming in, and we're going to be much more aggressive and to take a little bit of the sting out of the report that's going to come out next week, and I'm not going to preempt the news right now, but we're going to be making a major announcement in terms of who our fundraising chairman is. I'll give you a little tip that he actually is the National Finance Director for a high-profile sitting U.S. Senator right now. Okay, so I'm playing in the big leagues with the real people. That's how we're going to do it. But to date, we haven't been focusing on it. So, but you can go to our website. You can donate there. We take checks for sure. So, and fundraisers. Oh, the other thing, Mike, you're supposed to yell at me if I don't mention these things. If anybody here, if you have 20 friends and you want to invite them over, if we can get 20 people in a room, everybody kick in $50, I'll come for an hour, I'll hang out with you. We'll put out some hors d'oeuvres or something. We can raise $1,000. We can do that, and I'm happy to come. I'm happy to do it. I know that that's part of my job now, is to make sure we have the financial resources to challenge Cory Booker. One thing I can promise you, though, is as a fiscal conservative and as a businessman, I'm not wasting money. I'm using it very wisely and very, very frugally to the point where it's embarrassing sometimes how cheap I can be about it. But we need to conserve every penny that we have because we don't have $1 million in the bank like Cory Booker does. So thank you for bringing it up again. I'm always anxious about I'm asking for your support, for your votes and stuff.
You said you have 10 out of 14. I mean, you have 10. I said you had 10 out of 14. What about the other 7?
So the other 7 are having open primaries. They did not give the line to anybody. And so counties like Bergen and Morris, they're not giving it. Now what I can tell you though is I've been heavily campaigning in those counties anyway. Well, there might be some of that.
They have some.
Yeah, they do for sure. But so we'll be fundraising there and campaigning, making sure, I mentioned the YR chapters that I went to. The first 3 were Morris, Bergen, and Middlesex. And my business is located in Middlesex as well. So it's in Old Bridge, and the Old Bridge Republican Party is very supportive.